say you should never speak ill of the dead, saying I don't like because some deserve to be spoken ill of, but apparently many around the world, and unfortunately many in the West, took that way too seriously. Not only we decided on today's topic when I saw that the UN had a minute of silence for Raisi, the president of Iran, who died in a helicopter crash. Um, but since then, there have been condolences from other countries, including the United States of America, who should be, should be the leader of the free world, and as part of that, the battle against Iran, one of the biggest threats to freedom in the world. Apparently, that is not how the administration sees it. And I am here today with James Valliant, who is represented by those people. So, James, your thoughts on let's start with the U.S. because again, that's more relevant than the UN. We don't usually expect much from the UN. We expect a bit more from the US, and maybe we're wrong to do that.
Yeah, the news today and last night was how the State Department spokesman offered his official condolences for the death of this monster. You know, yesterday I covered some of the butchery that earned this guy the name the Butcher. He slaughtered tens of thousands of Iranian civilians in 1988 as one of the chief prosecutors of that massacre. He's been part of the investigation and prosecution unit for every Iranian uprising in the 21st century. In 2021, he was elected, and then in 2022, when that woman disappeared because she didn't wear the hijab properly, hundreds of Iranian women and girls protested in the streets. He had them brutally hanged, killed, arrested, raped. Now, that's the guy we're talking about. The guy, oh, he's been president there since 2022. Who the hell do you think funded October 7th and the whole coordinated attack of Iranian proxies? This Raisi guy is a monster of monsters. And for the United States State Department to officially offer condolences for the guy. No, I want to go back to what you said. Don't speak ill of the dead. No, I'll do worse than speak ill of the dead. Some people should be killed in reasonable self-defense. This man did not deserve to breathe air on our planet. This man is a killer of thousands of his own people, and the bankroller of October 7th. This man should die. The moral thing is to kill this guy. Like I said yesterday, I only had hoped that the Israelis or the Americans had been responsible for his death, but it looks to be an accident, because of an old helicopter. Okay, well, that's too bad. But condolences? Okay, the Security Council meets, and we have to have a minute of silence. And every single member, including the United States ambassador, stood in respectful silence at the death of Raisi. And what comes with this? An even more disgusting aspect. We express our condolences and grief on behalf of the Iranian people who are mourning the death of. No, there's a significant chunk, maybe the majority of the Iranian people there's been actual celebrations in Iran of Raisi dying. The people actually have been given I don't think it'll change things in the long run, but what a good thing for the Iranian people that this butcher of thousands of innocent Iranian civilians has gone. They're mourning for the Iranian people. Now, get this. The United Nations, which stands for some kind of international morality, is actually a dictatorship, as I have said, a dictatorship protection racket, which is exactly what they are. If they can stand up with respect for the president of this evil regime, it shows you the moral compass, such as it is, of the United Nations. The United Nations is an evil organization. It supports, protects, defends, and honors and respects the worst kind of dictators on this planet. The Iranian regime, maybe North Korea or China, the Iranian regime is one of the truly evil regimes operating against their own people in this world today. And they have the nerve to say that we express condolences on behalf of the Iranian people. That is a moral perversion and outrage, which shows the moral perversion of the entire United Nations. That is an organization which should be abolished, denounced as the evil dictatorship protection racket that it is. Um, the moral, yeah, President Biden, on one side of his mouth, says, "Oh, I don't like the arrest warrant that was issued for Netanyahu. It should only be against the Hamas leaders." So he says that on one side, but on the other side, his State Department is mourning the death of Raisi, who bankrolled October 7th. Again, President Biden, for purely political reasons, wants one foot on both sides of every fence, trying to have his cake and eat it too, live in a world of contradictions. But in that world of contradictions, what you do is you end up giving moral and material support to the worst actors and agents in this world. Of course, China expressed their condolences over Raisi's death. Of course, Hamas expressed, and get this, Hamas, which comes from a different religious sect within Islam, officially mourned terribly the death, horrible death of Raisi. Egypt, of course. Well, but those are the countries where you might expect it. You don't expect it from the United States State Department, which should be celebrating the death of Raisi, and more than that, taking advantage of a potential crisis in succession. Raisi was considered the leading potential successor for the Ayatollah, despite his own checkered religious background. Now, people are saying, well, it's the son of the current Ayatollah who's the probable successor. But the power shift, the power in Iran rests primarily with the clergy and the Revolutionary Guard. The people can protest, but the Revolutionary Guard keeps smashing down every time the people try to overthrow their government or protest their government. So the people, I'm afraid, so long as the Revolutionary Guard is where they are, without any disturbance from the West or America doing anything about that evil Islamic Revolutionary Guard, I'm afraid the poor people are destined to remain under this brutal theocratic dictatorship that so many Iranians want to replace. We won't lift a finger to help those poor, suffering people who have been ruled by these monsters now for more than 40 years. It's despicable.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I mean, there's an irony to the fact that the U.S. issues, the State Department issues an official statement offering condolences to the Iranian people, while the Iranian people, at least many of them, are risking their lives and dying in order to get rid of this regime, risking their lives even to celebrate. While America mourns with the Ayatollahs, the Iranian people are shooting fireworks. There's something really. I think historians, hundreds of years from now, will look back at this and ask what it was about America that about America's downfall, and this will be one of those moments where you see America, the approach to Iran, which has always said from the revolution in 1979 until now on a daily basis, death to America. That is their policy. And when one of the people chanting death to America, one of the leaders of the Death to America movement dies himself, America offers condolences. Yeah, I mean, this is
How many times did Raisi call America the great Satan? How many times do these people denounce America as such and call for its destruction as, the afterthought to the destruction of Israel? First, we destroy Israel, but don't worry, death to America, because they're the great Satan. An American State Department is mourning, expressing condolences over that monster's death. It's not even with American interests. America is acting against its own interest. And it actually, in its sort of muddled, naive way, thinks that somehow maybe something more reasonable will come about in Tehran, if we really are nice to them or something. What the hell are they thinking? This is maybe, as I say, maybe the most evil regime on the planet. It's really hard to wrap your head around. It really, really is. And so long as we are, talk about a lack of moral clarity, talk about a lack of moral understanding. So long as that exists, the Iranian regime will exist, and I'm afraid the Middle East will be hell. I mean, look at the aggressive activity. They support the Houthis in Yemen. They, of course, bankroll all of Hezbollah. They essentially bankroll all of Hamas. They bankroll all these Hezbollah subsidiaries and Iranian proxies in Syria and Iraq that attack American bases. that it stop international shipping. How many acts of war does Iran have to do before the West gets serious, before Britain and the United States decide that one of the main focuses? Now, traditionally, some point you made that was really great. Traditionally, in American history, we've done a lot of wars that I don't think America should have done. But in nearly every case, I've been able to say that at least America was on the good guys' side. We should never have done Vietnam, say. Iraq even was the wrong war, done the wrong way. But I can't say Saddam Hussein was a good guy. I can't say the Viet Cong were good guys. They're bad, really bad actors. So while America may not have been wise in putting their military resources into those wars, at least we were fighting the bad guys, like as we fought the Nazis. But the point is that in American history, we may have done some foolish wars, but at least we were fighting for the good guys. Here, it sounds like we're totally sanctioning, permitting to exist, morally praising the president who is in fact a butcher of Jews, Americans, and thousands of his own people. I cannot even understand it. It is moral confusion, moral relativism of the most disgusting form, and this naive belief that somehow if we're nice to them, the regime in Tehran will suddenly get nice and help bring about peace in the Middle East. What a load of crap.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Jeff, for the super chats. I'm thinking about this statement that Gilad Erdan, Israel's ambassador to the UN, made yesterday, and a part of it, asked. This was about the Security Council having a moment of silence, and he asked, "Would they do that for Hitler?" Which makes me, I don't know if this is the case. You're a historian, James, although this is not the period you specialize in. But do you know if when Hitler died, if there was any official condolences offered by the State Department or by, any...
No, in fact, Britain and the United States were they at first we didn't quite know, right? There was the fog of war, what happened to Hitler in Berlin at the end. There's been controversy since. But when the official word came out, he and Eva Braun died in that bunker. Great Britain and the United States were happy about it. Thank God this monster is gone. No, we had a totally different moral attitude. It certainly didn't cause anyone to offer official condolences on the death of Adolf Hitler. No, nor did we offer official condolences when Joseph Stalin died. My God, the perversion of doing such a thing. No, it shows the decline. But of course, the West was already in philosophical and cultural decline at that point. Now, considered now 80 years on, how much worse we are, where the UN and the United States are officially, and the American ambassador at the Security Council stands up for a moment of silence. Can you believe it? I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted with my own country in the extreme.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Yeah, and we've been talking about the journey that the U.S. Policy towards Israel, towards Hamas, has taken since October 7th, when America immediately, sent the aircraft carriers, made a clear statement. Reportedly, that's also part of the reason why Hezbollah didn't go all out and invade from the north. That was. And instead they've been firing rockets and missiles for 7 months with
And
no real
displacing thousands
response.
of Israelis in the north, by the way. That
Yeah.
never gets talked about.
Oh yeah,
Palestinians getting
that
displaced
never,
in Gaza, but never Israelis displaced both in the north and the south in Israel ever gets discussed.
yeah, it never gets mentioned. When the U.S. does express, its support for Hamas, which there's no other way to put it. They often add something like "and release the hostages" kind of at the end as an asterisk or something, or we support Israel's right to live in peace and security, or whatever it is. But there has been a very clear journey, and I wonder where this is on that journey. Like, had this accident happened on October 8th, first of all, I think we would all have a lot of conspiracy theories flying around, a lot more.
Right.
had that happened. But would the U.S. have offered condolences immediately, or would it maybe it could have saved some paper and offered condolences to Israel for October 7th and to Iran for their president dying in the same breath. I mean, I wonder
I don't think
where this has
so.
gone and
I
where it's
really don't.
going, because Biden has at the very least another 7, 8 months, right?
Yes, he's still got more than a half a year as our president, whatever happens in the election, and maybe longer, depending on what happens in the election. Uh, you know, but it's absolutely despicable. Consider the huge assault, the attack on Israel that Iran just a couple weeks ago blasted all those rockets and missiles at Israel. An act of war in any other sane world. The world would say Iran has unjustifiably attacked Israel and would be joining in an alliance to take out Iran right now for having done such an aggressive act of war. But no, no, no. Israel has such an effective missile shield, that only one, Bedouin girl, could be named as a casualty. And France and Jordan and the United States kind of helped, knock down some of the missiles. Okay, no, that does not stop it from being one of the most outrageous, aggressive attacks from one country on another country over the airspace of other countries. That was an act of war. The civilized world should be at war with Iran just for the aggressive attack they just did days ago with hundreds of missiles against Israel. It's mind boggling the lack of any kind of moral clarity or scope that anyone in the world, it seems, these days have. It's like we're living in bizarro world. No, yeah, one country can lob hundreds and hundreds of missiles at another country, and if we can stop nearly all of them, well, that's not an act of war. What? WTF question mark? And who
Thank
was
you.
behind that but President Raisi? He was the administrative leader of the government of Iran when that happened, just as he was the guy who's the president of Iran when all those coordinated attacks from the Houthis and the Hezbollah affiliates were happening. It's a coordinated attack from Iran.
They're still happening, maybe not as intensely or not as intensely reported as they were. And yeah, Hezbollah has, there are days when they fire more rockets and days when they fire less. I think the most intense was like a week ago. So yeah, that is still ongoing. Thank you, Christian, for the super chat. Christian says Charles Michel offered his condolences as well in the name of the European Union. I am outraged. I will vote on June 9th for the EU Parliament. I will vote only people publicly denouncing this. That is a good call. I will not be voting in the European Union because Britain left the European Union, so I won't be voting in those elections. In the past, I only voted for parties that said they would get Britain out, so that worked, and hopefully this will work just as well. Yeah, I
After
do want to
France's
say.
reaction to Netanyahu's arrest warrant, I don't expect other European nations to have your perspective, unfortunately. But any
Well,
sane European nation should do their own Brexit.
but
Frankly, the European Union person was particularly despicable. The
yeah.
UN spokesman, who also expressed condolences on behalf of the Iranian people, that shows you just how evil the UN is. They are pro dictatorship. They're
But
anti the people of Iran.
James, I think, on this channel, I think we have clarity that you don't have even among other pro-Israel people, but you do have more and more people who are kind of realizing that it is an outrage. It is an outrage that the West is siding with people who openly say their only goal in life is to destroy the West. Their only goal in life is to kill us. And even if people don't fully understand, don't fully have philosophically everything, completely, clear and figured out, I think there's more and more of this outrage, and I wonder, are we going to see some of that translate into some election results? I don't know who the parties are in the European Union because it's each country votes for parties and then they get into these groups in the European Parliament. And I stopped following that when I had no reason to. Um, and in the US, I think the options are pretty bad. And in the UK, I think the options are pretty bad. But there is more and more, just like there's outrage on the other side. Here in the UK, there's a big chunk of people leaving the Labour Party who are going to win the next election by a landslide, no matter what. But a big chunk of people leaving because they think this is their moment, and it does definitely seem like it is their moment to actually bring about a country that I think different people in this movement want different things. Some want, this country to become an Islamic caliphate, an Islamic theocracy. Others want some sort of communism, some sort of dictatorship of the left. They'll work together as long as they get rid of the people who disagree with them, and then those two will find out. Well, one of those two will find out what the other thinks about them. But yeah, is there a moment potentially for people, let's say semi-reasonable and above, to
Well,
actually
it's a
do
very
something?
interesting thing happening in the Democratic Party in my country. In the left-leaning party, the Democrat Party in the United States, there's a huge division going on between the pro-Hamas faction and the more pro-Israel faction. And the Jewish vote in America has tended to go majority Democrat. And I think this is a time for all those Jews and even those Christians who support Israel and are Democrats to question their allegiance to the Democrats when Biden is so compromised with the pro-Hamas wing of that party. I think it's a time for choice, folks. And I don't just mean Jews and Christians who support Israel, who do in this country. I mean everyone, secular people, everyone. If the Democratic Party is willing to go pro-Hamas, you better consider your reconsider. I'm not a Republican. I did not vote for Trump either time. So it's not like I'm giving a Trump commercial here. I am opposed to Trump's position on this too. But I would ask any supporter of the Democratic Party who is also a supporter of Israel in my country to seriously question their loyalty to this party that contains overtly pro Hamas elected representatives in our Congress.
Yeah, it takes a real Biden to make Trump look like even candidate that's even
Yes,
worthy
sir.
of consideration. Deborah asked, so are any of the Brits here going to vote reform? I'm guessing this is for people in the chat. I live in the UK, but I don't vote here. So, but I don't know that reform. Look, I don't know enough about them, so maybe they're better than I think. Being better than the conservatives is not a very tall order.
Yeah,
I
not a
think
very big
they
compliment.
probably tick that box. But yeah, and there's of course the question, because Britain has a first past the post system. There's 635 seats. Each one of those, one person gets elected. The person with the most votes in that constituency representing a party. So in many cases, seats are, in I think the vast majority of cases, seats are safe for one party or another. You know who's going to win. In other cases, in more and more cases now, seats can change hands. But a party like Reform, can get 20, 30% of the, not 30, but can get 20 or close to 20% of the vote without getting a single candidate
Might be a
elected.
spoiler and might be a spoiler for another candidate. And that's the
Yeah,
key. Yeah.
Yeah, in the case of reform, it might actually end up growing Labor's majority, which is neither here nor there. We're going to have 5 terrible years under Labor in this country. I think that is inevitable. And the question is what comes next. And if it's not the Conservative Party, we talked about some people deserve to die. Some movements also deserve to die. And I think the Conservative Party has earned that. And of course, they've earned that with COVID lockdowns, making everybody in this country a prisoner in their own home. They've earned it with the fact that they have been to the left of Labor on pretty much every single economic policy, on social policies. They're to the left of the previous Labor government, not necessarily of the next Labor government. And their position on Israel is absolutely despicable.
Despicable.
So,
There, it's clearly despicable, just
yeah.
despicable. But it doesn't look like the Tories have even got their act together. They're just a mess. And yeah, I'm afraid I'm an outsider, so I'm not an expert on British politics, but it sure looks like it's kind of inevitable that Labour is pretty much going to be in charge for the next 5 years. So, and the people in America say, "Hey, American people are, give Trump higher marks on things like the economy and Israel," but he's like 15, 20 points ahead in the polls on those issues, but he's only 1 point ahead in some of the polls. So why isn't that translating? Well, because people are disgusted with Trump too. And so I can't tell you who's going to win the presidency in the United States. It's that close right now. Trump's a little ahead. He's ahead in the battleground states that'll probably do this. But Biden could easily win if things change. And guess what? So for the next 4 or 5 years, both Britain and the United States will have the left-wing parties in charge. And I do not, that cannot make me very hopeful about Middle Eastern policy, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, the best we can hope for is the next time a mass murderer who calls death to America dies, the U.S. will not offer its condolences. I think that'll be.
This man called Jews animals. This man said death to America how many times, called him great Satan how many times? How many people has he killed? I think you think of that missile attack that just happened on Israel. The guy that bankrolled October 7th. That's who we're talking about. Condolences? The condolences are evil.
Yeah.
You men have so richly deserved to die in my lifetime as President Raisi of Iran.
Well, we send our condolences to his victims and congratulations to the people of Iran.
Yes.
The people in Iran, again, it's a big country. I'm sure many support him and many mourn his death. I don't know which side has more, but I know which side we're on. It doesn't matter if they have more or fewer people on
Yes.
that side, and that is the side of the people who want to get rid of one of the most evil regimes in the world.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, that's where we stand. And if you stand with us, consider liking, posting a comment, sharing this video so more people can see it, and of course, subscribing if you're not subscribed. And of course, if you can afford it and see it as a worthwhile cause, consider becoming a paying member, and you also get access to multiple different members' benefits, including the Sunday sessions on Leonard Peikoff's courses run by James Valliant. The current course, the History of Philosophy, is almost over. I think there's a few more weeks left. And then there will be something else, which we will announce very soon. Not as soon as the reality show, which starts in a minute, but soon. Thank you, James, for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for watching. The reality show starts in maybe 2 minutes, not one. See you there.